Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Behind the Green Screen. As you can see, there's no green screen behind me, and this makes episode 13. I'm positive this is episode 13. Hopefully, this is lucky 13. I don't know what kind of luck it's supposed to bring, but we'll see. All right, so for this episode, I have a variety of books, but it's not the books themselves that I'm going to cover. It's the genre of the books that is what I'm going to discuss. Um, and basically, I'm going to be talking about poetry, y'all. Yes, sweet, sweet poetry. Now, you would think that me as a writer that I would sort of be interested in poetry. But my love affair with poetry has been on and off since I was a child. When I was a child, I couldn't get enough of poetry. And then as I got older, I don't know when I just fell out exactly, but I did fall back in when I went to junior college or community college in New York before I joined the Navy. And then I fell into it again when I was going through my thesis or writing my thesis, while at the same time I was doing a teaching fellowship at a community college. And my mentor, her thing was poetry. So I would shadow her class to see her teaching technique, but also be influenced by the poetry. And then I was also a reader for their literary magazine that was, I think it was all poetry. It was called, uh, I cannot remember, but there was water in the title. It'll come to me later. But there was water in the title for their literary magazine. So I would serve as reader of all the submissions, because that's what you do for literary magazines. There are readers 9 times out of 10. If the literary magazine is published by a school, then people on staff will sort through all the submissions and vote on this should go in, this is a maybe, this is a send back or send a rejection letter and tell them try again, that kind of a deal. So that's how I got back into poetry then. And then I, you know what? Let me just get into it. Let me just start because I'm sort of like, I'm getting kind of weird with it. All right. So, so let's start from when I was a kid. Okay. Now, according to my grandmother, because I don't remember half the stuff, and I don't even know if, all the stuff that she had, I don't know what happened to it, if she really did save the things that I used to write as a child. I believe she did, but she passed away back in 2021. And so I'm really, or excuse me, she passed away in 2022. No, sorry. The years just seem to blend into one. My grandmother, who passed away at the age of 99, passed away in the year 2023. Right. So, but she had like my grandmother. She sort of held on to stuff. She was sort of like a pack rat, but she was better at it than I was. And she saved a lot of my cutesy stuff when I was a kid. Now, my aunt, I think I told you that there are weird numbers that are in my family. And one of those weird numbers is the number 11, because I am 11 years older than my brother, my half brother. I am 11 years apart from my aunt, and my aunt was 11 years apart from her sister, my mother. So my aunt was going to Hunter College. She became a nurse. And so she had all these books from college, and she just gave them to me. That's how I wound up reading Lady Chatterley's Lover, but that's a different discussion. The Lady Chatterley's Lover is a different discussion. So yeah, I was reading inappropriate books. All kinds of inappropriate books, okay? But I digress. So when I was a kid, I loved haikus. All right. Have you ever tried to do a haiku? I do not know why I took to haikus. All right. I took to it like a duck to water, and I could not stop because it went by syllables. Well, that's how I understood it at the time when I was that age. I'm trying to look through this to remember the syllables. I think it's 575 is what makes a haiku, I think. So if you don't know, it's 5 syllables. So for example, here's one here. Yeah, it's definitely 575. Because here's one haiku. So far, so low, a drowsy thrush, a waking nightingale, silence we do not know. Now let me clap that out. Let me clap that out to see if that's, because I'm not feeling, no, you know what? That's not a haiku. That wasn't a haiku. Okay, here's one. I can't get this thing to sit like still. Okay. Sit still. All right. A morning glory. Yeah. A morning glory. 5. And so today may seem. And so today may seem. That's 6. My own life story. I could have swore. Wait a minute. I feel like I'm missing something. The tower high I climb, there on that fir top sits a butterfly. Listen. That's what I remember. Okay, I don't know why this is not working out, because I distinctly remember. Or is it 475? In any event, I used to write haikus like nobody's business when I was a kid. And any scrap of paper that I got a hold on, and I was sitting there idle, I was making haikus, right? And I think this is one of the books that I got from my aunt, who I think had it for one of her college classes. As a matter of fact, I'm sure of it. So here are some haikus. A sleeping butterfly. A sleeping butterfly. During the nights, what can it be he does? I'm missing something. I need to brush up on my haiku, because this is going to drive me nuts. This is going to drive me nuts. Because I know that there's... Yeah, this is going to drive me nuts. But yeah, so I started off with haikus as a kid, okay? And then I got to maybe 5th or 6th grade, and I got introduced to this dude. Okay. I have a cover for one of these books and don't have a cover for the other. I don't remember how I got these books. I may have inappropriately got them from a library, but I won't say for certain that's how that happened, because it often happens that I would forget to return a book to the library. and this doesn't have a cover. So I'm kind of like, where did it come from? But in any event, let's see, can you see that? Yes, yes. Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. Okay. I loved Shel Silverstein. I think I bought this one. As a matter of fact, I'm positive I bought this one. I did. So here's the other one, Falling Up by Shel Silverstein. Okay. So I loved him. Now, nice little trivia fact in case you didn't know. Shel Silverstein was also a songwriter, and he wrote 2 songs that were sung by none other than, drum roll please, Johnny Cash. So A Boy Named Sue was written by Shel Silverstein. Ah, you didn't know that, huh? So he did A Boy Named Sue, and there was another song that he did that was sung by Johnny Cash. Oh, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. He did that one too. He wrote the lyrics to that song too. So yeah, go look up some Johnny Cash. Go find A Boy Named Sue if you've never heard Johnny Cash before. Those lyrics were written by Shel Silverstein. Now, one of my favorite poems, and I think that there was a TV special of Shel Silverstein's. I feel like that. I don't know. I feel like that there has been some sort of 1970s TV special featuring Shel Silverstein's poetry. But in any event, one of my favorite, and I still remember some of this. I don't know why I tried to memorize this because it's long. But one of my favorite poems from Shel Silverstein was Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. And I think I don't know, maybe I was going to perform it. I don't know, because I was trying to get into musical theater. Like I caught the acting bug in the middle school that I told you about, Louis Armstrong Middle School in East Elmhurst, Queens. I started catching the theater bug there. I would be in like productions. Sometimes I would sing in the chorus, or I would play like a small role. I remember we did Oliver Twist, and I played a nanny slash maid that had like a one liner that made everybody laugh. But in any event, so I'm just going to read because this is like an amazing, and I just want to remind everybody of like the people who came before us and how really creative and wonderful they were. And they did it all with human intelligence, not artificial intelligence. So Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceiling. Coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door. With bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal. This is why I love Shel Silverstein, because you can't read his poetry without smiling. Because it's nonsensical, but it makes sense. And it's there'll never be another one like Shel. If there is, I haven't come across them. But then again, it's been a long time since I've been a child, and I don't really keep up on poetry for kids. But I just think the imagination that it takes to sit down and come up with something like this, right? And here's the illustration of it too in this book, which is kind of cool. All right. So yeah, this was my ultimate all-time favorite poem. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. I think because I identified with Sylvia, because my mother was always making me, and I don't know why. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So my mother was always making me take the garbage out and put it into the incinerator. And maybe that's why that was one of my favorite poems. All right. So I forget who, I think Shel does the illustrations of this. Did he do the illustrations? Yes, these are his illustrations. So, yeah, so, yeah, uh, uh, um, yeah. Those are his illustrations. I don't know what was going on in Shel's head, but they're kind of, I love them. I love the illustrations, and they go very well with the poetry. I mean, oh, the boa constrictor. I loved this one. Let me pull this back. Okay. The boa constrictor. Okay. Boy, it really messes with the screen. Oh, I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor, a boa constrictor, a boa constrictor. I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor, and I don't like it one bit. Well, what do you know? It's nibbling my toe. Oh, gee, it's up to my knee. Oh, my, it's up to my thigh. Oh, fiddle, it's up to my middle. Oh, heck, it's up to my neck. Oh, dread, it's and I read that right. How do we get this right? So, yeah, this is why I love Shel Silverstein. Now, this is a matter of fact here. That's doesn't he look like what's his face? John Fetterman? For real. Doesn't he look like John Fetterman? If you don't know who that is, look it up. All right. So I don't remember too much from Falling Up. I would have to look through it to see if there's anything in there that I remember, but I think Where the Sidewalk Ends was one of my favorite collections from Shel Silverstein. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, I can leave you on my lap like this. Okay, so I get into high school. And if you remember, if you go back to episode 2 of Behind the Green Screen, when I talk about Edith Hamilton's mythology, I talk about uh, English class that I was pushed into that I really didn't want to be in, and I purposely, deliberately failed it so I can go back into regular mainstream English. I think I did myself a disservice, but no regrets because I really, even though I love what we were doing in that class, I just, I didn't want to be challenged at that time. I just wanted to just be left alone and just try to get through school because I did not like middle school. I did not like high school very much. And it was always a struggle, just trying to fit in and, make friends. It was always a struggle. So, um, I would just rather stick my nose in a book of books that I liked rather than have someone tell me what to read. And then, like as I think probably by my senior year, I was I sort of flipped my opinion or my approach and really started to enjoy some of the things that were assigned to read. And I still take them to heart and I still love them to this day. Now, when it comes to poetry, from that class came this. Have you ever heard of this book? It's Spoon River Anthology by Edgar Lee Masters. This was assigned in that honors English class in high school. And I just thought that this was the dopest premise for a collection of poetry. So here's the premise. So there's a little story behind it too. So basically, this is a fictional town that's based, let me see. Right. It's based on a town that's in Illinois. And Spoon River, apparently, according to this introduction, it's an area near Lewiston and Petersburg, Illinois, where Edgar Lee Masters, spent most of his childhood, right? So he had this concept for this collection of poetry, which is all you goths out there would probably appreciate this because all of these poems are basically epitaphs of all the residents of Spoon River, and each, so boy, you can tell I've had this book for a long time. So you can see right here. Oh, did I? See, this is how old this book is. Look what I just did to it. I just like broke the spine. And so, yeah, this is a book that I had and probably took from the high school when we finished reading it. So I'm going to be kind of gentle with this because I know I should, why don't I just get another cover? I keep cracking the spine each time I open it. Okay, very gently, I'm going to open it up. See the poems? See, these are all epitaphs of all the residents who've died in Spoon River. So each of these poems tells their story. Sometimes it'll tell how they died. It'll tell how they loved, who they loved, all of these. So, for example, so for Clarence Fawcett, the sudden death of Eugene Carmen put me in line to be promoted to $50 a month. And I told my wife and children that night, but it didn't come. And so I thought old Rhodes suspected me of stealing the blankets I took and sold on the side for money to pay a doctor's bill for my little girl. Then, like a bolt, old Rhodes accused me and promised me mercy for my family's sake if I confessed. And so I confessed and begged him to keep it out of the papers. And I asked the editors too. That night at home, the constable took me, and every paper except the Clarion wrote me up as a thief. Because old Rhodes was an advertiser and wanted to make an example of me, oh, well, you know how the children cried and how my wife pitied and hated me and how I came to lie here. So they're poems, but I'm not sure of, look, it's been a long time since I've taken any kind of poetry class to understand, like, there's pentameter and all of the things that make poetry, all the rules, I've completely forgotten them. They're out of the window. So the only thing that poetry naturally does not have to rhyme if it's free verse. And this is clearly free verse that I do remember. Okay. I'm not sensing the rhythm of that one in particular that I just read. But again, it's been many years. It's been many years. Excuse me, since I've read this book and discussed it in class. But I will not open it up anymore because if I hear or feel one more break of the spine, I'm going to cry. But yes, so this was high school, Spoon River Anthology by Edgar Lee Masters. Go get yourself a copy if you're into poetry or not, because it reads more like vignettes rather than short stanzas of poetry. That's what it really feels like to me, always felt. And I don't know why I connected or like really liked this poetry book, like because it's so different from anything that I really got into at that time. So I think maybe I was impressed by the concept of of creating a book of poetry based on people who died and telling their story through the poetry. I think that's what appealed to me about Spoon River Anthology more than anything else. It's the concept of allowing these people to speak beyond the grave. That was really sort of interesting for me. Okay. So there's that. Now, I get into college and let me talk about college for a little bit. Okay, so I talked about how I was basically trying to be, well, not trying to be, but I wasn't very interested in high school. I wasn't interested in getting good grades. I was just more or less interested in just graduating, just getting to the finish line. Excuse me. No, that's not wine, it's grape juice. So I didn't really start achieving until I got into my senior year, trying to undo all the damage that had been done the 3 years prior. But another interesting thing that happened was in that final year, I finally sort of like just kicked it in gear because I was in a co-op program, which was really dope. I don't know if high schools still do this, but we had this thing called the co-op program. And so you got in, and then they would find a job for you, and you would earn a paycheck, and you would alternate between your job and the school. The dopest program ever, because you know how tedious high school is. The same thing day in, day out. There's drama going on. But when you're in the co-op program, there's no drama because we're all working and we're getting out of the school. So it made school more interesting because you were alternating, right, between these two worlds. And for me, the co-op program was the one that brought me my first ever job because I think I've said before, I could not get hired to save my life. Fast food, retail, could not get hired, could not get a job. I would go into the city, I would dress up in my little skirt that I got from Loman's and my pantyhose. Yeah, we wore pantyhose back then, right? There were no bare legs. There was no bare legs, and you shaved your legs back then. I don't know if they do it now. They probably, well, yeah, there was waxing. But back then, you wore pantyhose. Now, my mom, and I have to sort of question why she allowed this, but I would wear garters. Well, you know what, though? I should backtrack a second because back then, when you wore garters, that was part of your lingerie. That was part of your, like, you could wear garters and it wouldn't be, it had nothing to do with Fredericks of Hollywood or anything like that. That was part of your, what you did. You wore if you wore a skirt or a dress, you wore pantyhose. There was no question of bare legs. Seriously. And um, so I had these garters and I had hose, and I would, with my little skirt from Loman's, my Calvin Klein skirt, and go into the city and try to interview and could not get hired. Could not get hired. So the co-op program brought me my first job. I was working as a file clerk for Chubb and Sons Insurance Company in Midtown Manhattan, not too far away from Grand Central Station. And then I graduated, and for a year, I guess you would call it a gap year because I didn't go into college right away because I did so crappy in high school. And I thought there was no way, if I tried to apply to any of the SUNY colleges or CUNY colleges. SUNY stands for State University of New York. CUNY stands for City University of New York. There are city schools and there were state schools, universities, and colleges. Okay, and they all have the different systems. So I knew that my crappy grades were not going to get me into any of the SUNYs. But the one good thing about community colleges is that it gives people like me a second chance at trying to see if the college thing really works. And that's why I taught at community colleges. There's this thing out there, and I'm hoping that it's not a thing anymore, where they used to call community colleges the 13th grade, which is a complete and total mischaracterization of community colleges. Because I can tell you right now, you talk to any student of mine that I taught at a community college, and I put their ass through the ringer. You hear me? I was teaching them Aristotle. I was teaching them all kinds of philosophies. I was putting them through it. I was breaking down Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, book 3 for them. All right. So let me tell you something. Do not, under any circumstances, come in my face and tell me community colleges is the 13th grade, because I will give you the finger before I defend community colleges to death. Okay. Because it was through a community college, specifically LaGuardia. Let's try this again because I got the lips have kind of effed up. LaGuardia Community College. Okay, so that's where I went to. I worked for a year. I was working two jobs, and was I working two jobs at that time? Yes, I was working two jobs at the time. I was working 7 days a week. Actually, I was working through the week and on the weekends when I started. Because see, and I'm sure that they still do this now, but back then, what they used to do is that companies, when they were looking for college kids and paying them like, I don't know, back then $5 an hour was pretty good as an hourly salary. And so what companies would do is that they would post like job openings at the community colleges. There was like this actual board, with stick pins, and they would just put jobs on the board, and you would go over there, take a look, and if there was something that was of interest, then you called. And so that's what happened. I was working 5 days a week. During the week, I would go to Manhattan. I can't remember. Wait. It was near Penn Station. Yes. The place where I worked through college during the week was at Penn Station. I would go after classes. And I cannot remember this company, but I do remember it was during a time where you could still smoke indoors. And I used to smoke Newport box. So I could smoke in the other room and do microfiching. That's what I did. Basically, they would have these stacks of invoices and they needed them microfiched. So I was just, and basically that's how I also learned that I'm really good at repetitive tasks. Like once I switch my mind off, everything just goes automatic and I don't even think about it. And I'm really, really quick, right? So that's what I did. I would take these stacks of invoices. I would take a picture of them. That's what a microfiche is. And then they would develop it, and it would be like these little square little uh, negatives, I guess. Yes, they were negatives, basically. They were little small square pictures, microfiches. And the only way that you can see them is on a microfiche reader. So these were before we had thumb drives and cloud storage. That's how you archived your stuff. So while I was in college, that's when I really felt as though school was for me. I could do this. I wasn't an idiot. And if I just get myself in gear, I can really do this college thing fairly well. So in college, I was introduced to poetry, but adult poetry. Yeah. So here's one of the books. Yeah, I kept it all these years. That's how I could have sold this back. I could have. And look, another student probably would have benefited because, of course, you always bought your books used, right? And this was the price for this one back then. Can you imagine a book this thick? That's how much we paid used back then. Okay, you people, you millennials and you Gen Zs, you make fun of us Gen Xs, but you know what? We paid less for our books than you will for yours. So in any event, that's where I think it was maybe English composition where I had to buy this book, and we went through there's different sections. Of course, there's drama, there's short story, and poetry. Exactly. So so bright it sort of messes with the camera. uh ah. Okay, so I was introduced to I was introduced to adult poetry in community college, and one of my favorites, I think. I don't have favorite poets. I have favorite poems. And I don't have like, how can I put this? Like, I would not go out and buy a full book of poetry from any particular poet. I would rather get a compilation like this and see like the full range of poets. So yeah, this book has everything. It's an anthology, all right? So one of my favorite poems, and I don't know, there we go. Yeah, that'll work, was from Adrienne Rich, and it's called Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. And you can see my little neat teacher's a script where I was learning like um, figurative language versus imagery and stuff like that, and making notes in the book. But yeah, that's what I was. So that's one of my favorite. Adrienne Rich, Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Aunt Jennifer's Tigers prance across a screen. Bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Chivalric. You see how I tripped over that word? That's why I don't like poetry. I like poems, but not poetry as a. So, so there's Adrienne Rich, and then another one of my favorites. And I was reintroduced to this lovely lady, may she rest in peace, when I was shadowing my mentor for my teaching fellowship. Let's see if I can hold this up. You can see it. Lucille Clifton. Oh, man, this sucks. Lucille Clifton. Right? So my favorite one, and you can see that I sort of bookmarked it. There's a Girl Inside. This is my all-time favorite from Lucille Clifton. There's a girl inside. She is randy as a wolf. She will not walk away and leave these bones to an old woman. She is a green tree in a forest of kindling. She is a green girl in a used poet. She has waited patiently as a nun for the second coming, when she can break through the gray hairs into blossom. And her lovers will harvest honey and thyme, and the woods will be wild with the damn wonder of it. Ah, my favorite poem of all time. You heard? My favorite. Now, there's also Sylvia Plath, and I found Sylvia Plath to be a little too heavy for me. Like, I'll give you a perfect example of how heavy Sylvia Plath can be. Let me see. I found her in here. I know she's here. Lucille. Here we go. Now, this is the one that I remember most distinctly, and it was probably from the class that I was taking in college. But it's called Lazy. Excuse me. And scene. All right. So this poem is called Lady Lazarus. Now I'm going to read the first three stanzas, and then you'll realize why I really cannot connect to Sylvia Plath, because she's a bit heavy. I have done it again. 1 year in every 10, I manage it. A sort of walking miracle, my skin bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin, oh my enemy, do I terrify. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm talking about? This is some heavy, heavy, heavy stuff. Sylvia Plath is not for the faint of heart. I am convinced that my plants are having relations, and that's why there's all this fluff floating around. It's not dust. I think my plants are getting it on. Okay, so these are some of the I was also into Frederico Garcia Lorca. And I could have sworn, I think I have another, because I never gave back the books that were assigned. So there was another English class that I took that had another anthology, and I kept that anthology. And I think in that anthology, I have Pablo Neruda, because I remember his poetry, or I remember him and how beautiful his poetry was. And so that is another one in which I would not buy a book of poems, but if it was a compilation and he was in it, I would definitely buy it along with Lucille Clifton, so on and so forth. So Frederico Garcia Lorca, I liked his one. I liked his too. Farewell. And the thing is that translations really need to be on point, especially when it comes to poetry. So here's the farewell from Frederico Garcia Lorca. If I die, leave the balcony open. The little boy is eating oranges. From my balcony, I can see him. The reaper is harvesting the wheat. From my balcony, I can hear him. If I die, leave the balcony open. Yeah. I did like Langston Hughes, right? Let me see if I can show this. Here he is. That's how I do it. Okay. So yeah, and not just a dream deferred, you know, come on, there we go. And not just a dream deferred. There were others that he wrote other than a dream deferred. And but people like people just want to default to what's easiest, what's in the zeitgeist of people trying to show their bourgeoisie knowledge, like me right now, right? So yeah, and what the interesting thing is, in this collection, A Dream Deferred is not part of the poetry that's in here, which I think that's part of the reason why I like this so much. Now, County Cullen, who was also part of the Harlem Renaissance, his poetry is in here too. But for whatever reason, maybe I didn't connect because it wasn't one of the things that I bookmarked. Right, I bookmarked Frederico, Adrienne Rich, but I did not bookmark him. So I don't think but you know what? It always deserves a revisit, right? Because why keep these books if I don't every once in a while get into it and reread some of the stuff or well, actually it wouldn't be a reread, it would be sort of like a reintroduction. Yeah, a reintroduction. Now I'm going to wrap this up with my final poet for this episode. And I came across, well, let me say this. Excuse me. Let me say this. I said before with the poets that I sort of talked about that's in that Riverside anthology book, that I wouldn't buy a book of poetry from them, but if they were part of an anthology or a compilation, I would. But there is an exception. There is one poet who is also a prose writer. And for him, I would buy a book of poetry. And I did. And I bought it on my iPad because I wanted to do it quickly. So I wanted to get it quickly so I could do this episode. Normally, I would buy a hard copy book. But like I said before, my book situation is really getting out of hand and I need another bookcase. So, and I got 2 more books coming in the mail, yo. 2 more books coming in the mail. So I need to quit it and I need to stop buying books, which is why I've been buying stuff on Kindle, for the Kindle lately, books for the Kindle. All right, so enough of my side talk. So one of the one person who I would buy a book of well, there are two people actually. I take that back. There are two poets in which I bought a complete collection. One is Lord Alfred Tennyson. Yeah, don't ask me why, but I like Lord Alfred Tennyson's poetry. And I bought a book, and I should show that because I bought it. It's on Apple iBooks. It's on iBooks. So Lord Alfred Tennyson is one. The other one, who is controversial, Rudyard Kipling. I love Rudyard Kipling. And I fell head over heels for good old Rudyard when I came across this poem. And I have to think that Kipling loved women. Like, he loved women. He had respect for women, right? Because he did this poem. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Rats. Ugh. All right. Oh, okay. Let's do it this way. Ugh, that's yuck. So my favorite poem is not Gunga Din. I know, like I said, I know he's problematic, but I read his poetry and I understand it, but it's sort of like, oh, how do I describe it? Like, you understand his poetry. He doesn't get too far off the reservation, right? And their poems are just so powerful. So you know Michael Caine, the actor, and you know that one of his favorite poems from Rudyard Kipling is "If," right? And he recites it. You can't stop him from reciting "If," and it is a marvelous poem, right? So if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. See what I mean? Like, he is dope. Rudyard Kipling is dope. And this leads me to one of my all-time favorite poems. I mean, bar none. Female of the Species. Have you ever heard this poem? If Michael Caine can pop up and recite "If," I would recite Female of the Species to whoever is listening. You hear? I'm going to skip down to, well, let me see. There's so much. Okay, I'm going to read this part. As a matter of fact, I used it for my self-published book. She is wedded to convictions in default of grosser ties. Her contentions are her children. Heaven help him who denies. He will meet no suave discussion, but the instant white-hot wild, wakened female of the species, warring as for spouse and child. Unprovoked and awful charges, even so the she-bear fights. Speech that drips, corrodes, and poisons, even so the cobra bites. Scientific vivisection of one nerve till it's raw, and the victim writhes in anguish, like the Jesuit with the squaw. So it comes that man, the coward, when he gathers to confer with his fellow braves and counsel, dare not leave a place for her. We're at war with life and conscience. He uplifts his erring hands to some god of abstract justice, which no woman understands. And man knows it, knows moreover that the woman that God gave him must command, but may not govern, shall enthrall, but not enslave him. And she knows, because she warns him, and her instincts never fail, that the female of her species is more deadlier than the male. Ha 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 ha! Dope, okay? DOPE. Kipling is dope. That's why I love him to death. He is my all-time favorite poet. And that's why I will buy a full, complete set of Kipling's poetry, because he is just that dope. All right. So I'm going to leave it with you. I'm going to leave that with you. I'm going to leave it right here. I'm going to set it down. Let's put a blanket over it. Okay. I'm feeling silly today. But in any event, so take care of yourselves. It's a crazy world out there. There's a lot going on. But like I always say, we're going to be all right. And I do have a new mantra. Okay, I found this mantra. As a matter of fact, hold on, let me get the mantra, because I wrote it on a sticky note. Because for whatever reason, I can't seem to commit this to memory. And I'm wondering if I'm not meant to, which doesn't make sense. But hold on. All right. So I have a new mantra. And whenever I recommend that you do this, when things get on top of you and you feel a little overwhelmed and there's so much going on and there's so much news coming at you from every source, every time you get on social media. So when this happens, say this to yourself. All is well. Everything is working for my highest good. Out of this experience, only good will come. I am safe. I'll leave you with that thought. Take care, and I'll see you for the next episode of Behind the Green Screen.